Ethan Carter was in his element. The glow of holographic displays bathed the lab in a soft blue light as strands of alien DNA flickered in front of him. He was zoning in on a particularly tricky sequence when the door slid open with a hiss, "Ethan." A voice rang out, high-pitched and full of enthusiasm. He didn't have time to turn before a whirlwind of vibrant, shimmering skin and a flowing outfit barreled into his quiet sanctuary. Kalira, the Thalian supermodel whose face was known across 3 star systems, had just stormed his lab like she owned the place. "I've got the best news," she said, practically bouncing on her toes, her golden eyes gleaming. "You got me pregnant, human." Ethan blinked, his brain lagging as if it had been dropped into cold space. Pregnant? For a second, all he could do was stare at her, trying to process the words. He'd spent years immersed in genetic data, theorizing about cross-species compatibility, but this was something else entirely. Wait. What? He finally managed, feeling his pulse quicken. Kalira clasped her hands together, delighted. "Yes. You and me. We're having a baby, Ethan. A glorious hybrid child. Isn't it wonderful?" His mouth opened, but no words came out. This couldn't be real. They'd run a compatibility test, sure, but it was purely theoretical, just data points, models on a screen. There was no way it could actually. Kalira, that test, it wasn't. It wasn't supposed to be possible. Thalian and human biology, they don't mix like that. Ethan spluttered, feeling a cold sweat break across his skin. Kalira waved her hand, dismissing his panic. "Oh, but they do. And isn't that amazing? We've made history, Ethan. I'm going to be the first Thalian to give birth to a hybrid with a human. You should be proud." Proud? Ethan felt like the floor had opened up beneath him. His whole career could be over before he even knew what hit him. If the research committee found out, he'd be grilled, sanctioned, possibly exiled from the station. "This is insane," he muttered to himself. He raked a hand through his hair. His thoughts spinning out of control. "Kalira, are you sure? I mean, did you get any confirmation?" "Of course I'm sure. I've known for days now." She beamed at him as if she were announcing she'd won a galactic lottery instead of dropping this life-altering bombshell. Ethan staggered back, gripping the edge of his workstation. "This can't be happening," he whispered under his breath. Kalira looked at him with genuine amusement. "Oh, you humans, and your worries. You think too much. Just imagine how gorgeous our child will be." She grinned, touching his arm lightly. "This is a good thing, Ethan." But all Ethan could imagine was the chaos that would follow. His neat, controlled world was shattering before his eyes. The sterile halls of Aurora 7 felt tighter than usual, the whispers following Ethan like a shadow. Everywhere he went, heads turned, eyes widened, and the murmurs began. "Did you hear? The human got Kalira pregnant." He felt like he was walking through a dream, his reality skewed by the bizarre revelation from just days ago. It wasn't long before the summons arrived, an urgent message from the station's ethics committee. Ethan had known it was coming, but that didn't make the sinking feeling in his gut any easier to bear. As he stepped into the cold, steel-walled council room, the weight of every gaze settled on him. At the center of the table sat Director Thorne, a man whose iron demeanor matched the sterile surroundings. He didn't even wait for Ethan to sit. "Dr. Carter," Thorne began, voice laced with barely concealed fury, "can you explain why a routine genetic compatibility test has resulted in an interspecies pregnancy? One with significant political implications, I might add." Ethan swallowed hard, his throat dry. It wasn't supposed to happen," he said, choosing his words carefully. "The test was purely theoretical. There's no precedent for this." "I didn't think, clearly, you didn't think," Thorne interrupted, his knuckles white as they gripped the edge of the table. "Do you have any idea what you've done? This isn't just a scientific anomaly, Carter. The Thalians consider this union a symbol. A political statement. We're getting pressure from all sides. The door to the council chamber slid open before Thorn could finish, and in sauntered Kalira, as radiant and confident as ever. The collective air in the room shifted immediately. "Ah, there he is," Kalira announced with a grin, her eyes gleaming as they locked onto Ethan. "Our very own history maker." Thorn blinked in surprise, visibly thrown by her presence. "Ms. Kalira, this is a closed," Kalira cut him off, her tone breezy but with an undercurrent of steel. "Oh, come now, Director. You're not really considering punishing Ethan for something so spectacular, are you?" Ethan's stomach twisted. He hadn't even asked her to come. And now she was turning the hearing into a spectacle. Thorn narrowed his eyes. "This is no joke, Kalira. You've made this station a political battleground. We have protocols, and Dr. Carter has breached them." Kalira gave a soft laugh, strolling to the center of the room, her presence magnetic. "Breach? Please. Ethan didn't break any rules. What we've done is something extraordinary. A human and a Thalian, our union symbolizes a future that both our species can share. Isn't that the point of this station? To explore what's possible." The council members shifted uncomfortably. Ethan watched in stunned silence as Kalira's words seemed to dismantle the mounting pressure in the room. Thorn's jaw tightened, but Kalira's influence was undeniable. The balance of power had tipped. Ethan's pulse slowed as he began to realize, maybe Kalira wasn't just a disruption, maybe she was his only hope. The tension in the air was thick enough to slice with a blade as Ethan stood before the ethics committee once again. His heart pounded in his chest as Director Thorn paced slowly, his gaze hard as granite. This time, Kalira sat beside him, her usual dazzling confidence tempered by a quiet resolve. The once chaotic media frenzy had started to quiet down, but now it came down to this, the final decision. Thorn stopped pacing, locking eyes with Ethan. "Dr. Carter, after thorough deliberation, we've come to a decision regarding your actions." Ethan's throat tightened. His career, his reputation, everything he had worked for was teetering on the edge. Kalira leaned over slightly, her voice a soft whisper. "Breathe, human. It's not the end." He nodded slightly, though his nerves were barely held together. This could very well be the end, he thought. Director Thorn continued, "While the council recognizes the unforeseen nature of your situation, we cannot overlook the breach of protocols. You risked not only your career but the delicate political balance between humans and the Thalians." Kalira, seemingly sensing the moment, stood up from her chair, her presence as commanding as ever. "Forgive me, Director, but it seems you're focusing on all the wrong things," she said, her voice clear and confident. "This is not a breach of protocol, it's an evolution. What Ethan and I have done isn't just an accident. It's a bridge to something new. A symbol of unity. A future." Thorn's eyes narrowed. "Ms. Kalira, while your perspective is noted, this is a matter of fear," Kalira interjected smoothly, taking a step forward. "Fear of change. Fear of what this pregnancy represents. But let me ask you this, what future do we have if we don't embrace what's possible? Look at this station. It was built to explore, to expand our understanding. And now, Ethan and I are simply the next step in that exploration." Ethan's pulse quickened as he watched her speak with such conviction. She wasn't just standing up for him, she was standing up for the idea that their child represented. For the future that frightened so many. The room fell into a heavy silence as Kalira's words hung in the air. The council members exchanged glances, clearly thrown off balance. Ethan could see their hesitation. Thorn was grasping for control, but Kalira had swayed them. After what felt like an eternity, Thorn let out a long, measured breath. "Very well," he said, his tone resigned. "The committee has decided to issue a formal reprimand. Dr. Carter, you will face disciplinary action, but you will retain your position. This situation. It is unprecedented, to say the least. Ethan exhaled in relief, the weight of uncertainty lifting from his shoulders. He glanced at Kalira, who flashed him a subtle, triumphant smile. As the meeting adjourned and they stepped into the corridor, Ethan finally found his voice. "I thought we were done for in there," he said, half smiling. "I've never seen anyone handle Thorn like that." Kalira laughed, her eyes twinkling. "Oh, Ethan, you have much to learn about navigating the galaxy. But don't worry," she added, teasingly bumping his arm, "you've got me now." For the first time in days, Ethan laughed too. Whatever came next, political fallout, fatherhood, or an entirely new chapter of his life, he knew he wouldn't be facing it alone.